Thank you, Mr. C, for allowing me to do this interview with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few questions. This is for a research project about songwriting because it's something that I want to do as a career.
Yep.
So, what is like the most innovative part of your job?
What's the most innovative part of my job?
Of like your profession as a whole.
Oh, well, as a musician and songwriter?
Yeah.
Well, because of the uniqueness of some of the projects I work on, I have to be able to be as flexible as possible.
Yeah.
For instance, writing for a television commercial is a lot different than writing for a theme park ride. It is a lot different than writing for a musical. So all of those have different considerations. The innovation, I think, comes from trying to incorporate unique concepts and ideas into something that will still be appealing to a mass audience, because all of the things that I mentioned are mainly entertainment venues, from theme parks to theatrical musicals and so on. So the innovation comes from trying to pair creating a unique vision with audience appeal.
Would you think it's like difficult?
Yeah, it's very difficult. You have to predict. You have to kind of predict what your client wants, the people that hired you to do the project. Ultimately, their goal is to make money. And if we are not creating something that it will be profitable, in other words, sell tickets, then we have failed. Now, there's a whole other side of songwriting, which is creative expression. And that's not what we're talking about when I'm talking about.
It's like they ask you to do this, a specific thing, and then
Correct. So you have a list of criteria that you have to fulfill while still satisfying yourself creatively, or it will get to be like a day job. Now, the other part of that equation is writing songs simply for creative expression. That's a whole different list of criteria that you satisfy for yourself. And there's a whole other world of an innovation that can go in that world, or in that universe, excuse me, because you're not answering to anyone but yourself. So your palette is much more expansive.
Would you say that when you're like creating songs for yourself, you're songwriting?
Yep.
Do you think you also want to appeal to the audiences?
No. That's been my problem as a musician ever since I was young. I'm attracted to things that are off-putting and somewhat challenging to listen to. As you know, I've presented some of them to you in class. So my attraction to the odd filters into my main mode of creative expression. Now, if you listen to my body of work, if I can call it that, it sounds a little pretentious, but it is a vast...
It is your body of work.
It is. It's 5 CDs worth of material of my original work, and I do consider all of the work I do for musicals and theme parks also my original work. I would consider commercials and things like that original as well, but they're not as creatively satisfying. You try to get a paycheck. But if I'm speaking strictly for my solo output, it's a wide variety of styles and genres and mixing things, and some of them can be very challenging and almost unlistenable. Others can be very commercial and pop sounding, but I don't write them hoping that someone will like them so much as, do I like it? Does it make me happy creatively? Is it satisfying whatever drive I had to create it in the first place? Did I succeed at that? What have I learned from the experience? What can I do differently? Those kinds of things. Those are the questions I ask. I never once have thought, is this record or a song or piece of music going to appeal to an audience outside of myself?
More like for your soul.
Which really it explains why no one listens to my music. Which is true. We looked up Skibbity Skibbity Fortnite last night. It has 1.5 million views. Oh, it's a masterpiece. 1.5 million views. I maybe have 200 or 300 views on my product. Now, my band, which performs these pieces of music, when I do have them together, will draw 75 to 100 people at any one time to the club, which is pretty good for a local act. But no one in their right mind would think that that's commercially successful. So it's just not my main drive when I'm doing that. Yes, creative expression, satisfying whatever the muse is, whatever is demanding that you make music at any one time. That's my goal when I'm writing for myself.
Talking about your music, and how would you say is your creative process while creating like the songs that you find weird or strange?
Are we talking about, now again, I'm writing on a number of different levels. If I'm writing for myself, my creative process is, it's whatever strikes at the moment. Like I've got a phone full of ideas. I've got tape recorders at home full of ideas, just because at that moment that creative urge struck, and if I didn't capture it, I would lose it. Now, I've woken up 2 or 3 times in my life with a song completely arranged in my head, and I recorded those songs as well. So that's weird. You can't really explain how that happens. But the process is undefinable when I'm dealing with my own creative expression.
Of course.
If I'm working for a commercial project, if I have a client, my process is much more clearly defined, because they usually have an idea of how they want to receive the product. Sometimes they'll say, we need to hear the melody before you write the whole thing. Or we need, if it's a theme park, we need to know the themes for each room, the musical themes for each room, and just send us those themes. Don't do any more. Sometimes you have to audition to get the project. So they'll say, write us a proposal. And in that, you have to make clear your musical vision. So the process is much more clearly defined based on what the client is looking for.
Okay. When you bring, sorry. What's your favorite memory of one of your songs, or
of one of my songs, like
creating
creating one of my
works that you have done?
There's a lot of them. Working for the theme park company has a lot of really fine memories attached to it, because when I write for myself, I write the piece of music, it goes on my CD, some people listen to it, we perform it live. I have memories attached to that too, because I have a lot of friends and people who appreciate my music, who play my music. But those memories are more sentimental. The memories I have working for the theme parks are really vivid, because you're inside of a theme park ride that you usually ride through the ride and experience the ride, but I'm creating that experience along with the artists and creators who make these rides. So my memories are how cool it is to be inside a theme park ride with all the lights on and seeing all the animatronic characters with no sound, and then they put your music into the space and it changes the entire experience of being in that room. The lights go down, all of the sounds come on. I wrote that. That's my music. That's helping create this environment. Those are the kinds of memories I have of that type of work. It's really vivid, and literally, because the rooms are painted with all these. It's like when you go into a theme park ride, you're engaged auditorially, but you're more engaged visually. But without that auditory, that's the part of you that's being satisfied by the sound that's creating that environment. The experience is a lot less intense, and so that's what I find. I look back on is how cool it is to create that, to make that happen.
Is it fulfilling when you get to see your work?
Oh yeah.
Do you get to feel that
It's crazy.
Because I imagine it is.
I went to Maine, where one of the most recent theme park rides that I worked on is a haunted hotel. And my wife did the voice of the woman who introduces, this hotel is haunted and this is what is going to happen when you get on the ride. The introductory character is my wife, and my kids sang background, some of the female voices on it. So it's like a little family project that's in this theme park ride that hundreds and hundreds of people are walking in through and riding a day. Like tens of thousands of people are experiencing my music, and walking in there and seeing it and hearing it was like, this is really cool. Yeah, it's like making a movie almost, but it's in real time. You're experiencing it in real time. So yes, that is incredibly fulfilling. What's also fulfilling is as I put together my solo records, knowing that each one has become stronger writing. The songs are stronger, the pieces of music are stronger, they sound better because I'm getting better at engineering. That's also fulfilling in a different way.
I get it. I understand like the feeling of like just having your own work be out there, even though
even
like,
making it. Remember when we were in the studio at JU and we came up with some cool ideas and we did it right then? You're like, yeah, this is so cool.
And like there isn't a lot of people there, but like just like the feeling of you doing it, if you the feeling of you making the music that you want.
Exactly. And the thing is, as you become more and more commercially successful, you can't lose sight of the things that make you happy. So you have to find a way to make that, whatever that commercial pursuit is, fulfilling to you in ways that may not be immediately noticeable.
I get it. I have 2 last questions for you.
Okay.
I know it's kind of like late on time.
We're good.
But
we may have the bell interrupt us.
Talking about that, what advice would you give to those people that want to pursue a career in the music industry?
Well, my initial instinct is to say, don't do it. Do something else. Don't do it unless you have the drive, the commitment, and the skin that is thick enough to deflect all of the barbs that will come your way and all of the disappointment that you will experience, because it is a really hard business. It's even harder now than when I was a kid. It was hard then. It's much more difficult now, but at the same time, the world is kind of open to everything because of social media. So you don't necessarily need to have a traditional career in music anymore. You can DIY this stuff if you find the right audience and grow it until somebody takes notice of you, and then you've got your career going. Some people don't even need to get the elusive or the mythological now record deal or management contract, because they can do it themselves online.
Now they can more trust like the algorithm.
Yeah. That's right. That's why Skibbity Fortnite gets 1.5 million views.
That's why a lot of songs get a lot of views without a lot of content on it.
Some of that stuff is good, and some of it is crap. But the thing is, you can't get hung up on that. You can't think, if I were to like look at Skibbity Fortnite with 1.5 million views and say, I've only got 300 views on my YouTube channel or on my Spotify, I'd probably stop doing it because it would be so disheartening.
Yeah.
But that's not why I do it. I do it because it's incredibly creatively fulfilling and almost necessary. I mean, you hear a lot of songwriters and musicians say, I would die if I gave this up. I would not survive. And I think they mean that sort of literally, but more metaphorically, like you just wouldn't, things wouldn't be as fulfilling or as exciting or satisfying in the world. Everything looks a little grayer when you don't have that in your life.
And I remember you like giving me like this advice a while ago, like don't compare yourself to others. That's gonna be like the thing that's gonna like drop you down.
You'll never be as good as the person that you're trying to be as good as. And they have people who, and the word good in general, is it's an undefinable term, and it's something that we hold ourselves to, and we will never satisfy that, because there's always someone better, or whatever good means, or better or best. And those people have people that they look to and think, I'll never be that good. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, and it just spoils your creative process.
Exactly. And going with that, this is my last question that I kind of stole from you.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? What's your definition of a good song?
Do we have enough time on this thing?
We have like some minutes.
Well, we've talked about this. There is no such thing There is no such thing as good or bad music. There's only music you like and music you don't like. Now, a song could be structurally sound and be terrible. In other words, it could satisfy all of the requirements of a traditionally well put together song, but might be really difficult to listen to, or even boring, or not evocative or emotionally satisfying. There's a number of different criteria we all use to judge what we think is good music. And then there are songs that break convention and don't follow any of the rules and might be considered a poorly structured song that are incredibly satisfying. And some of those songs have entered the canon of Western music that we now listen to for the last 100 years. It really is about, for me, what I enjoy, what satisfies me either emotionally, intellectually, as a musician. I listen to music for a number of different reasons, as does everyone. But it's not definable. The record company defines good music as music that sells. And that is something that I think all songwriters fall prey to, is especially if you have a career songwriting. I've written songs for things. I am not a excuse me, I'm not a what they called in the Brill building like a contract songwriter, where you would be hired to write songs for other artists. You are obligated to write hits.
Yeah.
And if those artists don't have hits with your song, go find another career. So your definition of good might be completely contingent on what your bosses think. And that's even harder to satisfy, because it's always shifting. The market is always shifting. The ideas about what good songs are, who's the hot thing, can we write a song like them but not sound derivative, can we, and these considerations flood your mind and your creative spirit when you're just trying to write something that's original and
but also
satisfies you.
Satisfies what your boss expects from you.
That's the first consideration. And it's almost like, that was such a good idea, it was such a good song, why didn't they like it? And it's happened a number of times where somebody writes a song and the boss doesn't like it, and he takes it somewhere else, and the boss doesn't like it, and you take it to this others, and then the fourth or fifth person down the list records it and has a hit, and it proves the rule wrong. And so it's as nebulous and undefinable as anything else that exists in the ephemera of our lives. It's like trying to define love, or a good relationship, or even things as more tangible, like a good meal. If you're not in the mood for that food at that particular moment, you're probably not going to like it, but you might like it another time. Music is the same way. It's predicated on how we feel at the particular time we're listening to it. You may have a terrible memory attached to a song and you will never listen to that song again, and then you happen to hear it 30 years later and you're like, oh my God, that's a really good song, I really like that song. Or you're embarrassed, you can be embarrassed to tell people, like, am I embarrassed to tell people I like the Partridge Family or Kelly Clarkson or even a Taylor Swift song? If you can detach yourself from all the other considerations and just immerse yourself in the music, you might find your definition of good changes from moment to moment within a song, as well as from song to song and from record to record and artist to artist. How's that for a confusing answer to your question?
I think it was a great answer.
Thank you.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
doing this interview. Thank you.
I don't know who's going to see this, but see ya.